Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Andrew DeStefano again, Putnam County Crime Analysis. I am now on Bonadio Report, part number 4. And I hopefully at this point, I'm just going to start blowing right through it. I did have to put a lot of filler in the other ones because I'm always told by some people that, a lot of this stuff is very complicated. So a lot of, some people may not know what you're talking about. And they're right. This stuff is complicated. Not everybody knows it. I'm talking data-driven policing. I'm talking problem-oriented policing, situational crime prevention, crime mapping, et cetera, et cetera. Not everyone knows it. This stuff is very, very intense, and it's complicated, and that's why not everyone knows it. So I try to go slow and explain as best I can. But now I believe we're in a position where I could just start speaking from a common sense standpoint. Now, when the report was requisitioned by the county executive in county executive's office officially in November of 2020, and it was ready to go sometime before Election Day 2021, and it didn't come out until approximately November or May of 2022. In June of 2022, the Sheriff's Department got up at the legislature meeting and gave an oral presentation and gave 6 reasons as to why they felt that the Bonadio report was defective. When I say, I don't know why this was done or that was done, I do know why, but those things will be saved, towards the latter part of to my reports. Right now, I'm just going right for the facts. What I do know is that, from what I understand, the Sheriff's Department, they got up and they gave an oral report, and they never gave a written report to the county. And I don't know why, because that should never happen. If you're asked for a report, if you're going to do a report, you do a report. I mean, you at least have, something. You don't just get up and speak and attack and then, go away. And listen, I have all the respect for everyone there and everyone that might have been involved with this, the command staff, so to speak. But the fact is that a written report should have been submitted, and to my knowledge, nothing was submitted. Now, I have, as I said, three legal pads full of analysis. I worked on this stuff. I mean, when I was home, I was working on this stuff sometimes till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I was really dedicated to this. And when I went away on vacation to Dominican Republic, I took this with me twice, and I explained that. All right. Conversely, all I have from the Sheriff's Department is this newspaper article. That's all I have. So, $45,000 in a report, and I'm working off a newspaper article. If I don't think that, again, I know that from what I looked around, nothing was submitted. So I'm working off a newspaper article. So in any event, in November of 2020, the county executive came out and said that, quote, that the skyrocketing overtime was the necessitating factor to hire a due diligence company, the Bonadio Group out of Manhattan, to find out the reasons, the causal factors for this, to do a study, she said, to do a study as to why the overtime was skyrocketing. Okay. The newspaper exactly says, in November of 2020, County Executive Mary Ellen Odell requested the Bonadio Group commence a study and issue a report on what is causing the skyrocketing road patrol overtime spending, which the legislature soon approved. So now we can establish that this report was requisitioned because the overtime was supposedly out of control. It was skyrocketing. The facts are these. 2019, and these are the numbers. They're right in the report. These numbers are right in the report year to year from 2018 to 2020. And then just to back it up, I reworked all the numbers. It took me It took me months to do it. Months. Okay. From 2019 to 2020, when this report was requisitioned, Sheriff Langley reduced the overtime by $261,000 from 2019 to 2020. Divide that by 924,000, which was the previous expenditure, times 100, and what do you get? You get almost 29%. Sheriff Langley reduced his overtime by almost 29%. And what happens? The county executive's office and whatever little group decided to do this hires the Bonadio group to write up a report on the sheriff's department. I mean, I hope that's clear. From 2019 to 2020, the overtime was reduced by Sheriff Langley by $261,000. Divide that by 924,000, multiply times 100, you get 28.24%, almost 29%. He reduced the overtime by 20. He did exactly what he was asked to do. Right in the middle of a COVID pandemic shutdown, when half the department's out sick and the other half is fighting to survive. And he gets rewarded by having this group, the Bonadio group, writing up a report, obviously to try to humiliate him and try to humiliate the men and women of the sheriff's department. There's no doubt that's what was behind it. But that's a fact, okay? That's a fact. He reduces the overtime by 29%, and the Bonadio group is brought in to find out why the quote-unquote skyrocketing overtime costs, okay? So obviously, you can question the necessity for this report. Again, you have I'm a crime analyst. I don't throw darts at a board. You have your own opinion. So I'm only giving the facts here. Now, I told you that I'm going to be giving the critiques of the sheriff's department. When the sheriff got up and he said that his command staff came up with 6 reasons as to why the Bonadio report was defective. So I'm going to do one critique per video now, because I hope to go through it very quick. I don't want to do all 6 in one video. Last time it took me an hour and 3 minutes, and it was way too long. Okay, so the critique was, according to this is now in the newspaper article. Critique number 1 from the sheriff's department. Quote, the study fails to accurately account for all law enforcement agencies that perform law enforcement functions in Putnam County, most notably the state police. Okay, so essentially, what is he talking about? Bonadio went through the 5 staffing methods that you use when you staff a police department. And where'd they get that from? I told you before, they got that from ICMA. All right, they got that from the ICMA group, and that's Professor McCabe. This is the white paper that they used. I've read that paper a million times. And Professor McCabe, he's the standard by which everything else flows. McCabe is the standard. ICMA is the standard, not anybody else. So that report, that white paper, should have been read. If Bonadio was basing their analysis off the white paper, you got to read that white paper, and it's clear to me it was not read. But they gave 5 reasons as to why, or how you staff a police department. They gave using crime trends, minimum manning, authorized budget levels, workload-based analysis, which is CFS, calls for service, and then the per capita approach. I'm only going to talk about the last one, the per capita approach, because that's what the sheriff and his command staff is talking about when they say the study fails to accurately account for all law enforcement agencies that perform law enforcement functions in Putnam County. So now, what is he talking about? In this staffing method, per capita approach, your optimal level for deputies is you have 1.8 to 2.6 deputies per 1,000 residents. That's the optimal staffing levels. 1.8 to 2.6 deputies per 1,000 residents. I believe in this study, the sheriff's department came in at like maybe 0.84 or something, way under the 1.8 to 2.6. So the sheriff's department right away is saying, well, the report's defective because they didn't add in all the other cops that work in Putnam County. like Carmel Police Department, Kent Police Department, Brewster State Police, etc. That's what he's talking about. That's the per capita approach. Bonadio stated 3 times in here. I'm not going to read it again. Bonadio stated 3 times in the report that they did not, repeat, not base their analysis on using the per capita approach. They said they didn't use it. So they didn't need all those other numbers. They didn't need Brewster PD. They didn't need State Police. They didn't need the Carmel PD. They didn't need the Kent Police Department, et cetera, et cetera. They didn't need any of those other numbers. And why? Number one, the numbers weren't given to them, by anyone. Number two, they're working off a CAD, the computer aided dispatch. That's only for the sheriff's department. That's for nobody else. Number three, what does the front cover of this damn thing say? What does it say right here? What does it say? Analysis of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department road patrol staffing and overtime costs. Analysis of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. It does not say an analysis of law enforcement in Putnam County. Analysis of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. Putnam County Sheriff's Department. Not law enforcement throughout Putnam County. So why would they add in all those other numbers? Number one, they didn't use it. They didn't base their report on the per capita approach. But number two, that's not what they were tasked to do. Bonadio was asked to look at do an analysis of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, not all the other departments. Bonadio didn't have access to any of the other departments. And they stated that in the report. So if this report was effectively read and copious notes were taken, then I don't see how you can get that wrong. It's right on the front cover. It's right on the front cover. Analysis of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, not an analysis of law enforcement in Putnam County. So, I mean, that's out right there, right? So I don't know if that's just an oversight, but the bottom line is, I'll say it one more time. And this is just common sense. When the sheriff comes in, the sheriff is in charge of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department, okay? He's not in charge of the Carmel Police Department. He's not in charge of Kent. He's not in charge of Brewster, etc. He doesn't have operational control over all those other departments. So why would he do an analysis of those other departments? Why would Bonadio include all those other departments in there? Why? There's no need. The sheriff doesn't have operational control over all those other departments. So why include them? Number one, they weren't asked to. Bonadio was not asked to include them. Number one. Again, number two, this was an analysis of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. It was not an analysis of law enforcement all throughout Putnam County. And Bonadio said they did not use the per capita approach in their analysis. They used another method. And if you read the report, you should have known that. Okay. So that's going to be the end of critique number one. I'm trying to keep these as short as I can. In a couple of days, I'll get to part 5. I'm getting phone calls on these, so I'm glad I am, because it seems that a lot of people knew about this. So in any event, stay well, stay warm. This is Andrew DeStefano from Putnam County Crime Analysis. Stay well, be safe, and God bless.